Most of you college people already know who I am, but in case you know they don't, no one here knows who you are. Bro, what are you, my insecurities? You could say I'm just a regular, old college student. There is no way in that you are a college student. You're 50. 50-year-olds can actually go to college. I rescind my comment. Good. Now what's your dumb presentation about? I bet it's about something dumb, like skibbity toilet. Ha ha ha. Actually, it's about the interaction between science and religion. It's a very interesting subject, full of historical significance, and yeah, that sounds extremely boring. I'm gonna skip your class and go back to my terrible West Side dorm to catch up on sleep. Because I'm a college student, and I don't get sleep. Hopefully my loud, inconsiderate roommate isn't home. Alright. Science and religion are two important spheres of human knowledge. Science is the study of our natural world based on observation, experimentation, and documentation of research that can be taught to others. Religion is the study of our natural world based on religious documents, the teaching of moral principles as well as other general knowledge, and the practice of culturally significant customs. They both focus on the study of the natural world and study their documented knowledge of it to understand it better. It's also interesting to note that science and religion stem from philosophy. Before the 17th century, science wasn't even a recognized field of study. Instead, famous scientists like Copernicus were called natural philosophers. Despite originating in ancient times, religion has also been heavily influenced by philosophy. It can be argued that religion is absolutely a kind of philosophy. Can you tell this is a rough weekend for me? These spheres also have their share of differences. For instance, science identifies the natural world and its laws by what is measurable, verifiable, and accountable. Religion, on the other hand, has a looser approach to making sense of the world, with many religious unknowns that are purposefully left up for interpretation. Yes! Religious unknowns are generally considered less threatening to religion than scientific unknowns are to science. With religion, you're kind of expected to believe certain things subjectively. With science, there's much more emphasis on objectivity. Science is also considered more inviting of further inquiry. If there's one thing that the realm of science is known for, it's constantly being revised with new studies and research. Did you know that before the 16th centuries, Nicolas Copernicus and his heliocentric theory, people used to believe that the sun orbited the Earth? You did? You knew that already, without me telling you. Okay. Science and religion have some similarities and some differences. Even with that in mind, these two spheres conflict a lot. One, or rather two, particular persons who've perpetrated this pedantic perspective are John William Draper and Andrew Dixon White, who penned the conflict thesis. About this argument, Draper and White wrote History of the Conflict Between Religion and Science, 1874, and A History of the Warfare of Science with Theology and Christendom, 1896, respectively. Those are really long titles, holy sh*. The conflict thesis argues that science and religion inherently conflict to the point of significant negative impact. Scholar Ian Barber, while analyzing this argument, divided the way that science and religion interact into 4 categories. Conflict indicates that one field is true and the other is false, hence putting them both at opposition. Independence indicates that science and religion are both true, but they have to stay in their own lane. Dialogue indicates that both have many truths and can inform each other. Finally, integration indicates that both science and religion are entirely complementary and can coexist in the same domain. Barber's analysis dissects Draper and White's argument and aims to combat the notion that science and religion have to conflict. This historical fight goes farther back than even Draper and White themselves. Notably, natural philosopher Galileo Galilei was put under house arrest in 1633 for supporting Copernicus's heliocentric theory. The Catholic Church, as well as the Roman Inquisition, who held the trial, played a significant part in Galileo's house arrest. At the time, the Catholic Church was undergoing the Protestant Reformation, which created the Protestant faith. It's a liberal branch of Christianity that was created to increase integration of the sciences into religious faith. They criticized Catholicism, especially for their lack of scientific integration. And as if they were setting out to prove the Protestants right, the Catholic Church took any advancements in natural philosophy as threats to the Church's authority. But that's just an example! Ever since the days of Draper and White, historians have mostly succeeded to disprove the conflict thesis. A scientist and priest could probably hold a nice dinner conversation if they tried. That being said, the public perception of science and religion has partially remained. Language analysts have noted that science and religion are usually discussed with different terminology. Science is associated with prediction and control, while religion is associated with worship and self-commitment. Science is perceived as logical, while religion is perceived as emotional. This ignores a lot about both fields. Science, as brought up before, is revised all the time. It's far from objective, and religious texts, whether fictional or not, do have to be grounded in some reality. The story of Jesus being nailed to the cross would be a lot less powerful if the Bible included Richard Nixon traveling back in time with Michael Jordan to save Jesus so he could fix his niece's toy trebuchet. Putting science and religion into these absolute polar opposites of logic and emotion seems pretty weird to me. Like, I get it. They have different amounts of logic and emotion, but you can't tell me that scientists never cry at soap operas. As a side effect of the conflict thesis, it seems that people believe that science and religion must be separate, and that someone can only believe either one. In essence, it's a refusal of logic or a refusal of emotion. As we've discussed, science and religion aren't fully logical or emotional. It's not as simple as objectivity versus subjectivity. Albert Einstein once said, "Religion without science is blind. Science without religion is lame." And Albert Einstein was the really smart guy, so you know he had a point. Solely following one or the other can make some pretty ignorant people. Unlike me, who is fully aware of the world at large and of society. Just don't ask me about the news this morning. Historically, many scientists have regarded religious canon as invalid and meaningless. In the pursuit of what's entirely provable, science can simplify religious beliefs as folk stories or myths, without accounting for their wisdom or moral value. As such, the scientific world can often discourage religious belief and encourage a focus on building empirical knowledge. Empirical means that you can directly observe or experience it. This ignores all the good that religion can do. Think of Christianity, for example. It provides a framework of how the world works that gives us purpose. You know, God created the earth, Jesus died for our sins, care for ourselves and others, be kind to thy neighbor, yada yada yada. The point is, religion gives us a reason to keep going, along with giving us a reason to do morally correct things. If a Christian sins, they go to a fiery grave in hell. So don't drive your car into a crowded circus tent. Ted! Of course, every religion provides their own framework and morals, and each one is perfectly valid. But the important thing is that it satisfies the person and their perception of what they're on Earth for. It answers some of the unknown questions that science can't really solve. Religion is an incredibly important and enriching part of our lives. To give that up would be pretty depressing. Even if you're not religious, having a greater sense of who you are and why you're here is kind of necessary. Otherwise, why would you go on? Besides, going purely by empirical data puts you in a rather sticky situation. And by sticky situation, I of course mean positivism. Positivism, otherwise referred to as the principle of positivism or the logic of positivism, is the scientific belief that truth is only identifiable by empirical proof. This belief is sometimes referred to as the principles of verification. If you can't see it, it's not there. Positivism prefers formal systems of understanding that can be universally and objectively applied, such as mathematics. You know that boring thing you did in school? Yeah, that. Positivists entirely reject anything that can't be proven through physical observation or experience. This includes various fields of study such as religion, ethics, and most natural philosophy. Positivists may call knowledge in these fields pseudo-statements, basically denoting them as wiggity whack! Overall, positivism tends to stay within a strict set of beliefs, and doesn't accept anything that isn't verifiably proven. However, as you may recall, you are in a sticky situation here, because positivism is criticized as a dilemma. You may also recall that I brought up the principles of verification. Well, that happens to be a subjective sentiment. An opinion. You can't empirically prove an opinion, can you? You can only prove objective things, like math! Ha ha! Believing purely in empirical data doesn't work! Ironically, it's illogical to do so. On the other hand, ignoring science entirely in favor of religion is also pretty strange. We've already talked about the story of Galileo. The Catholic Church was choosing to ignore scientific advancements that would revolutionize the world as we know it. And that did not go very well for them. I suppose my point here is this. Balance is key. It's important to know science, but it's also important to have a strong philosophical understanding of yourself and the world. A mix of logic and emotion is the best way to live. Otherwise, we're either a bunch of nerds, or we're depressed. Or in the case of college students like us, we're both. Okay, bye now.